So, Robert, thank you very much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But
Yeah.
before we walk into the future, can you please tell us a little bit about your background? Where did you grow up?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, been here really my whole life. Studied at the University of the Witwatersrand, and then started my career at Discovery about 13 years ago, and been here ever since.
And tell us, Robert, what was your dream career when you grew up?
Yeah, this is, I guess it's fairly interesting. You don't really, you never plan to be a CEO when you're 13 years old. I think I always knew that I really enjoyed working with numbers. I knew that I wanted to make a difference today and potentially lead either a team or an organization. I didn't know at the time what an actuary was. So I think I dabbled between the thought of potentially being an actuary, being an accountant. I actually wanted to be a forensic accountant. I guess that's like the sexy James Bond version of being an accountant, where you try to find fraud. And I mean, I did think it would be nice to be a doctor. I job shadowed a doctor at the time, and I definitely don't have the stomach to be a doctor. So I do have a lot of respect for doctors. So I think just ultimately it was potentially enjoying something with numbers.
And who inspired you in your early days?
I wouldn't say there was a single person inspired me. I think throughout my career and as I was at school and then university, there was always someone that encouraged me to make sure that I make the most of an opportunity. It was quite interesting. I think it's just part of my personality. And as soon as someone prompted me to make the most of where I was at, and try and make the biggest impact where I was at, I think those people really inspired and propelled me really along the way.
And Robert, today you're the CEO of South Africa's most innovative insurance company, and probably one of the most innovative insurance companies in the world, Discovery Insure. And you even go out as far as fixing potholes, right? The pothole brigade, you call it, I believe.
That's
Um,
exactly.
yeah, looking back over your career, would you say there was a turning point or maybe a number of turning points?
Yeah, I think the biggest turning point for me was when I moved from doing very technical actuarial work, so really working with numbers, to working with people, and starting to realize that I need to work with people to get things done, and ultimately starting to understand that people become the biggest asset of a business, not the balance sheet, not the numbers in the back end, and I'd say that was a real turning point in my leadership journey as well.
And what is driving you today? What is motivating you? What is energizing you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think I do what I do for many reasons. I think the first is definitely I'd say the overarching theme is to add value. I think firstly to add value to our clients. I mean, they're buying a product, seeing how we can maximize value for them, and I think that goes without saying. And then of course the organization. A lot of what I do, the reason I wake up every single day is to add value to the people that I work with. That I think we all come together. We're 1,000 people in Discovery Insure, that we all feel like we're making a difference and we're adding a lot of value. And then for me, maybe my personal conviction is I'm very pro South Africa. And for me, what really drives me is knowing that what we do every single day builds towards a South Africa, I think that we all dream of living in, for ourselves and of course future generations.
Thank you. Now, Robert, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
I think a future leader is definitely someone that doesn't just solve problems. I think the role of a leader is going to become really working on dilemmas. So the dilemmas are the things where there are multiple correct answers, and a leader really guides through the complexity. And I think the leader's role is going to become someone who inspires, someone who solves problems, and inspires change. I think fundamentally, though, I think that's the future of leadership. But I've got this personal, probably five bedrocks of leadership that I think will always remain. And I've written them down, and maybe to share them with you. It's of course integrity, teachability, humility, grit, and courage. And I think whatever the future of leadership looks like, really the bedrock and the foundation of a leader will include those five elements.
Okay, maybe that calls for an acronym. And so, leading a team of over 1,000 people across the country, Robert, and developing many future leaders. In your view, what is it we have to do to develop more future leaders and to to build more future leaders?
Yeah, I mean, I think importantly, it's definitely understanding as a leader myself that my leadership journey has really never ended. And I think my leadership style and how I approach leadership in a complex environment has to keep changing. So I think for myself to be really teachable. And then really it's quite a mindset shift from being someone that's important to being someone that's impactful. And I think having that hat on as you grow leaders is kind of really, really critical.
Now, Robert, these are challenging times as the world is stumbling from one crisis into the next. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter and hopefully overcome in their career?
Yes, I mean, I'd say we always say that it's the most complex time it's ever been. And I think that's always true. I think in 1990, it was the most complex time it has ever been. In 2007, with the subprime mortgage crisis, it was the most complex time it's ever been. COVID was the most complex time it's ever been. And now, maybe with kind of geopolitical tension, it's the most complex time it's ever been. And I think as a leader, it's making sure that you make sure you know what's going on in the world. You understand the risks. You can't plan for all the risks, but making sure that you've got the right team in place, because it is going to get more complex over time. And I think if you stop learning, you are going to fall behind.
And Robert, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are maybe one or two key skills that you would want to factor in and teach?
So the first I would say is actually crisis leadership. I mean, it's probably just it's not an official term or something that is part of any curriculum. But I think we've learned over the past 10 years, leaders have to learn how to navigate a crisis. And it's a crisis that you can't plan for. It's something that's going to be completely left field. But there is a way to lead through a crisis in terms of staying calm, staying the course, and helping problem solve. And then, of course, pairing with that, I'd say the second thing is just extreme adaptability. A leader that's rigid is not going to be able to withstand the winds of a crisis.
Now, as a mentor to many future leaders, Robert, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lady report to me a few years ago, and her and I were actually both fairly new in the area that we were leading, and we worked really well together. And I think what worked so well is we were both, as a mentee and a mentor, we were both really teachable. So the colleague and myself, we went on various courses together. We learned how to negotiate better together. And I think through that, she then ended up being a very senior resource within our business. But I think what works so well with a mentee-mentor relationship is that it's not one way. I think a mentor can learn from a mentee, and the other way around as well.
And looking back over your own leadership career, are there any role models of leadership who you have encountered and maybe worked with, who you feel future leaders should learn from?
Most certainly. I mean, I think I'm maybe a little bit biased, but some of our founders and leaders in Discovery, in the Discovery Group, are absolutely incredible. And I've had the privilege of working with them. In terms of founders, of course, Adrian Gore and Barry Swatchberg, and then currently, of course, the CEO of the South African Composite, Hilton Kellner. I think just really strong in driving innovation, real thought leadership, and understanding how we solve problems in a very, very unique way, and adding value to clients. I think stand out for me.
Now, Robert, how can our listeners connect with you and where should they follow you?
Yes, thank you. So definitely on my LinkedIn profile, we share a lot of thought leadership content around how we drive leadership, how we drive culture within Discovery Insure. Definitely follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll see all your listeners there.
Perfect. And last but not least, Robert, what is your message to the millions of learners out there who are looking to enter the world of work to start a career? What are maybe one or two success principles that they should keep in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say probably two success principles. I think the first is to make the most of where you currently are, and not always wish for the future. I think plan for the future, but make a difference where you currently are would be the first principle that I would encourage kind of future leaders. And I think the second is that leadership is really meant to be meaningful. and not just successful. I think we always think that leadership is making the best numbers, but it's more than success. It's about actually doing really meaningful work.
Robert, thank you so much for making time to share your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and for literally building a better country.
Of course, thank you, and thank you for your time.